While the retail crowd is hypnotized by the flickering red candles of the 31st, something much more profound is happening behind closed doors. XRP just made headlines again. But the real story isn't the price, it's the seat at the table. Most traders see XRP as just another speculative asset. They see a decade-old email surfacing, and they see blood in the streets. But they are missing the pivot point. XRP is no longer competing with other altcoins. It is sitting in rooms where Bitcoin physically cannot enter. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on 4 undeniable shifts. The $2.5 billion liquidity flush. Why the 10th largest liquidation event in history was a setup for the ultimate accumulation. The White House Summit. Why Ripple was invited to negotiate the future of the dollar, while the traditional leaders were left outside. The Epstein shadow. Decoding the email that proves who truly saw XRP as a threat to a $27 trillion system. The Chicago Canary. Why the failure of Metropolitan Capital Bank is the final warning of a system XRP was built to replace. We aren't talking about speculation anymore. We are talking about documented integration. Let's look at the evidence. Let's look at the plumbing. Welcome back. In the world of professional trading, crashes are not endings. They are resets. Yesterday, January 31st, 2026, the crypto market didn't just dip. It experienced the 10th largest liquidation event in history. We saw $2.51 billion evaporate in a single session. To put this in perspective, this event was larger than the COVID crash of $1.2 billion and more devastating than the FTX implosion at $1.6 billion. When $2.5 billion is wiped out, it isn't just retail investors losing money. It is a cleanse of leverage. Look at the behavior of the smart money amidst the chaos. Take Dave Portnoy as a case study. Whether you follow him or not, his latest move reveals a massive shift in institutional sentiment. While the streets were bleeding, Portnoy didn't just buy the dip. He weighted his bet heavily toward utility. He dropped $1 million on XRP and $500,000 on Bitcoin. Think about that ratio. 2-to-1 in favor of XRP. This isn't a Bitcoin maxi hedge anymore. This is a calculated bet from someone with resources that XRP is the asset that will outperform in the coming recovery. As he famously said, blood in the streets, that is when you buy. While the crowd panics, the data tells us we have hit a historical extreme. XRP's RSI, Relative Strength Index, hit 27 on the daily chart. For those who understand technical analysis, an RSI of 27 is not just low, it is completely oversold. Historically, when XRP hits these levels on the daily, it precedes a major, explosive move to the upside. On the monthly, we are still holding around 48, suggesting that the long-term structural integrity of the bull run is still intact. The goal of a $2.5 billion liquidation is to flush out the weak hands and create what we call accumulation zones. The institutions need liquidity to enter their positions. They don't buy when the price is pumping. They buy when the price is crashing and retail is forced to sell. XRP is currently being absorbed by the 1% at prices the market may never see again. But why is the accumulation so aggressive? It's because while we watch the charts, Ripple is sitting in rooms where Bitcoin physically cannot enter. While the retail market is distracted by the noise of liquidations, a far more significant event just unfolded in Washington, D.C. On February 2nd, 2026, a summit was convened at the White House. This wasn't a congressional hearing to scold the industry. It was a high stakes negotiation to decide the future of the US digital dollar infrastructure. The guest list included the heavyweights of the digital asset world: Ripple, Coinbase, Circle, and Kraken. They didn't sit across from regulators as defendants, they sat across from banking giants as equals. We need to address the structural reality that many Bitcoin maxis ignore. Bitcoin is a masterpiece of decentralization. It is digital gold. But its greatest strength is also its greatest limitation in a regulated financial world. Bitcoin has no CEO. It has no legal headquarters. It has no entity that can sign a legal framework or negotiate a settlement bridge with the Federal Reserve. Ripple does. Ripple is in that room because it has the corporate structure required to handshake with the central banking system. While Bitcoin stays outside the room as a store of value, XRP is inside the room, helping to draft the rules for the Clarity Act and the future of stablecoin yield. The discussions at the White House are focused on one thing: the Clarity Act of 2026. This legislation is designed to bring an end to the regulatory chaos of the past decade. Ripple's leadership has been vocal. Clarity beats chaos. They are advocating for a system where XRP functions as the neutral bridge asset, moving value between digital dollars and other currencies in seconds, not days. The banks are fighting against deposit flight, terrified that stablecoins will offer better yields than traditional savings accounts. But Ripple isn't fighting the banks. Ripple is providing the solution for the banks to remain competitive in a 24/7 digital economy. This isn't about adoption anymore. It is about integration. When you are invited to the White House to help write the rules, you are no longer a threat to the system. You are becoming the system. XRP is being woven into the very fabric of the new regulatory framework. While the masses wait for a pump, the smart money is watching the plumbing. They understand that the $27 trillion problem of cross-border liquidity cannot be solved by Bitcoin's 10-minute block times. It can only be solved by the efficiency and speed of the XRP ledger. But why was this threat recognized so long ago? Why did a decade-old email from a powerful network try to stop Ripple and Stellar before they could reach this table? To understand the future, we must sometimes look at the shadows of the past. Recently, as millions of pages from the Epstein investigations have been released under the Transparency Act of 2026, a specific piece of documented evidence has sent shockwaves through the crypto community. We are talking about an email from over a decade ago, a communication within a high-level financial network that explicitly discussed the need to shut down two specific projects: Ripple and Stellar. Not Bitcoin, not Ethereum. Ripple and Stellar. Ask yourself the logical question: why would the most powerful and entrenched financial interests in the world care about a startup in San Francisco and a non-profit payment protocol? The answer is simple: the correspondent banking system. For decades, moving money across borders has been a $27 trillion monopoly. It is slow, it is expensive, and it relies on multiple intermediaries, each taking a fee, each profiting from the inefficiency. Bitcoin was never going to replace SWIFT. Bitcoin is too slow, and its volatility is too high for institutional settlement. But Ripple was built specifically to do what banks do, but to do it 80% cheaper and in 3 seconds. The elites recognized XRP not as a digital gold competitor, but as a weapon against their rent-seeking infrastructure. They tried to kill it early. They used regulatory pressure, they used legal lawsuits, and they used the narrative of centralization to turn the crypto community against XRP. But as of February 2026, the suppression has failed. Ripple didn't just survive the SEC. It gained the only thing that matters for global adoption: legal clarity. Today, While those old networks are being dismantled by investigations and public exposure, Ripple is sitting at the White House, drafting the rules for the new world. We must stop the narrative that XRP is a Bitcoin killer. Bitcoin is the weapon aimed at inflation. It is the exit ramp from devaluing fiat. XRP is the weapon aimed at banking fees. It is the replacement for an inefficient, corrupt, and outdated global payment rail. The 1% saw this threat coming 10 years ago. Most traders are only realizing it today. While the crowd watches the Epstein files for celebrity names, the rational analyst looks for the financial directives. The directive was to stop the rise of the XRP ledger. They failed. And now, as the traditional system begins to show physical cracks, like the failures we are seeing in Chicago, the necessity for this new infrastructure is no longer theoretical. It is a matter of survival. In the financial world, traditional systems don't fail all at once. They fail in ripples. On January 30th, 2026, the Illinois Department of Financial Regulation took a decisive step. They officially closed Metropolitan Capital Bank and Trust in Chicago. This marks the first bank failure of 2026. The regulators use the standard vocabulary: unsafe and unsound conditions, impaired capital position. But for the rational community, this is more than just a local bank closing its doors. It is the canary in the coal mine for a fractional reserve system that is struggling to keep pace with the 24/7 digital economy. Think about the mechanics of this failure. When a bank like Metropolitan Capital fails, the transition of assets to a receiver takes days of manual reconciliation. In 2008, we didn't have an alternative. In 2026, we have a ledger that settles value in 3 to 5 seconds. The traditional correspondent banking system is still running on infrastructure from the 1970s. It relies on trust, on intermediaries, and on pre-funded accounts that tie up trillions in liquidity. XRP was built specifically to solve the problem that killed Metropolitan Capital. Every bank failure is a real-world stress test that proves why the old guard can no longer support the global weight of $27 trillion in cross-border payments. While the public watches the FDIC move in to protect deposits, treasury managers at other regional banks are watching something else. They are looking at the velocity of settlement. They are realizing that if their capital is trapped in slow, inefficient rails, they are vulnerable. This is why Ripple's survival, its legal clarity, and its seat at the White House summit matters so much right now. Ripple isn't just a company. XRP is the digital plumbing that allows banks to move liquidity without the risk of time lag. As we conclude this analysis, let's bring it all together. We saw the 10th largest liquidation event in history on January 31st, a strategic flush to clear the path. We saw Ripple at the White House, handshaking with the system it was once accused of threatening. We uncovered the Epstein email connection, proving that the elites feared XRP's efficiency a decade ago. And finally, we saw the first bank collapse of the year, proving why the old plumbing is leaking. XRP is bringing balance. The real story isn't the price action. The real story is that XRP has already won a game that most people don't even realize is being played. XRP, while Bitcoin becomes the world's digital gold, XRP is becoming the world's digital infrastructure. XRP, stay patient. The infrastructure is being rebuilt in real time. Stay rational. In a market driven by impulse and noise, clarity becomes an advantage. A simple reminder: speed creates mistakes, while calm evaluation creates strength. XRP, thank you for the trust and for being part of a community that values logic over emotion. Patience is discipline. Rational thinking is protection. As always, the future isn't something to wait for, it's something to prepare for. Stay safe.